Hello everyone, I'm going to be presenting my project over the political and economic cause and effect of the falling birth rate in the United States. Introduction. In the United States, our birth rate has been drastically declining since the start of the Great Recession in 2007. The CDC reported that our birth rate reached a historic low in 2023 with a 3% drop from the previous year, 2022. If our birth rate continues to decline at this steady of a pace, we are at risk of no longer meeting the replacement rate that is required for our population within as soon as the next 5 years. What is causing this drop in our country's birth rate? Are we able to fix it? And if so, how? Legislation strengthening women's rights. In 2020, the CDC released a graph displaying the expected number of births over a woman's lifetime, as you can see displayed over here in the corner. And this graph stretches from the year 1940 up to the year 2018. The graph shows our birth rate being at its highest during the baby boom from 1946 to 1964, which is this very big spike over here, and being at its lowest during 1976 and 2018. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act was passed in 1974, which provided women with the right to open their own bank account without a husband's signature, because previously women were originally allowed to open a bank account in the 60s. However, a male signature was required for the bank account to be open, and this was usually the woman's husband. The legislation of access to contraception for unmarried couples, as well as the legalization of abortion, occurred in the early 70s with the Supreme Court decisions on Roe v. Wade in 1973, as well as Eisenstadt versus Breyer in 1972. These laws being put into place gave women more independence and opportunity to live out their lives the way that they chose, leading to a significant drop in the birth rate for the years to follow. The Great Recession. The second lowest point on the graph can be observed in 2018 and can be traced back to 2007, which is where the drop began, which is around right there. During the years 2008 and 2009, the unemployment rate increased from 5% to 10% in October of 2009, which it doubled. The poverty rate increased from 12.5% to more than 15% in 2010 over the course of the Great Depression. Or the Great Recession, my apologies. This recession caused millions of American citizens to lose their jobs, homes, as well as their savings. And the only thing that was saving American citizens from falling even deeper into poverty than we already were was the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. American women were beginning to have children much later in life compared to previous generations due to some of the extreme economic and political events that were taking place throughout the course of the past 1 to 2 decades. Birth rates by age of mother from 2009 to 2019. The CDC released this chart titled Birth Rates by Age of Mother, and it displays the changes in American birth rates amongst various different age groups, ranging from the years 2009 to 2019. The line on the chart labeled as 15 to 19, which would be this line right here, this kind of green line, represents the birth rate for young women aged 15 to 19 years old. And as you can see, there was a major decrease in the number of pregnancies amongst this age group. And a decrease in teen pregnancy is a good thing. We would like to see that. The age group that had the largest increase in birth rate over the course of the decade was women aged 35 to 39. And there was also a slight increase in the age groups of 30 to 34, as well as 40 to 44. This chart provides a visual representation of the number of women who began having children later in their life over the course of the decade, following the Great Recession. Comparison of housing and wages inflation. Due to inflation in wages, a lot of young Americans are unable to comfortably afford children compared to previous generations. In 1955, during the time of the baby boom, the average cost of a home was around $6,000 in the state of Georgia. Today, the average cost of a home is around $334,210, which is roughly a 4,500% increase in housing costs. The average median annual income for American citizens in 1955 was about $4,400. And today, the annual median income for American citizens is $74,580. And this only makes a 1,600% increase in wages. So as we can see, there has been an increase in inflation for both housing costs and wages, but the proportion of inflation is very unequal. So therefore, while both housing costs and wages have risen, there is an imbalance causing difficulty when it comes to purchasing a home, especially on a single income. And this has caused many households to become dual income households, and women are now entering the workforce at much greater numbers than ever before, because it's very difficult to fully support a family with children off of a singular income. And with so many new workers entering the workforce, the need for higher education has also increased, with majority of the female-dominated fields requiring at least a bachelor's degree, with healthcare and education being two examples of female-dominated fields who at minimum require a bachelor's degree. The cost of starting a family. The average cost of child care a month in the state of Georgia is more than $700 per month, which can vary dramatically depending on your city of residence, the age of the child, and if you are utilizing a nanny or daycare facility. The United States does not currently have any sort of federal paid maternity and family leave act, meaning that many companies can decide for themselves whether or not to provide paid leave to the mothers and fathers bringing new life into this world, and therefore a lot of companies do not provide paid leave, and the employees are forced to take out their own paid time off, in which most know that you are very limited to the number of paid time off days that you can utilize within a certain calendar year. The United States only has the Family and Medical Leave Act, otherwise known as the FMLA, which only provides a certain employed citizens up to 12 weeks of unpaid job protected leave a year. For those who cannot afford to buy in the current housing market, the average cost of rent per month in America is $1,535. And in all honesty, this is more on the low end. As we know, this number can vary dramatically depending on your city of residence, the number of bedrooms, and other factors as well. Recommendations. If young men and women were presented with the proper benefits, they would be much more incentivized to start a family in their early to mid-20s as opposed to their 30s and even later. Either decrease the general cost of childcare or provide designated daycare facilities that are free for middle and lower class citizens. Bring down the cost of housing so it is easier for younger couples to save up their money to eventually buy. How to implement these recommendations. For mandatory paid maternity and paternity leave to be implemented into our governmental system, we would need a representative to sponsor a bill requiring all businesses to provide full-time employees with a minimum of 12 weeks of paid maternity and paternity leave. Affordable child care for middle-class families as well as lower-class families can be achievable with mandatory funding through state tax money. The implementation of a countrywide rent ceiling to maintain affordable housing for families who cannot afford to buy in the current market would also very much help and incentivize younger couples to begin having a family. And these last 2 slides are going to be my references. And that will be all. I really appreciate y'all tuning in and listening today, and I hope y'all have a good day.